thought, like, I don't think there's anything selfish about that. Like, yo, if I'm gonna make some shit, I want it to fucking outlive me. I want it to be something that will speak for me years beyond my death.
Coming in, flex. I just wanna win,
Alright guys, Turbo Podcast, episode fucking 5. Yes, we do. I'm with one of my best friends out here, Nick Wilkie, professional photographer in Brooklyn, New York, brand photographer for the brand CHNGE. And that's why I wanted to have you on here, Nick. You have so much insight into what it takes to work for a brand, what it takes to make a successful photography career. And that's my first question. What is it like being a brand photographer?
Well, I would say first thing is just be prepared to wear many hats you've never tried on. So, you know, with that being said, it's just all about being versatile. And I think that goes with like any kind of personal interest that you can pursue as a career, you know?
Yeah, so it's not just shooting. Explain that. It's like,
I think one of the things I realized when I started this job as the brand photographer for CHNGE was that you're kind of like the poster boy for the brand a little bit. You know, when people work with you, they are reminded of how they were treated and how they felt when they shot with you. And, you know, that is major for brand awareness. So you want to ensure that you're, you know, providing a solid bit of an experience when you are doing your job. You know, you got to make sure that people are comfortable, they're comfortable in their environment, and they trust you as a photographer, and the experience is just super important, something to know.
I think that goes for freelancing as well. If you're going to shoot with someone, you don't want to be like, for example, my girlfriend has had the experience where she's shown up on a shoot and the photographer was like, hey, you down to do nudes today? And she was like, dude, you never mentioned that before. You don't want to drop a nuclear bomb on someone when they get to your set.
No, I don't think anybody should do that in general in photography. I think there needs to be a level of understanding prior to walking onto any set, no matter if that's like lifestyle, studio, whatever. Like everything needs to be told prior to the shoot beginning. I don't know. I think that's like common courtesy for, anything you do in life. You don't want to show up to something that's just unexpected. Before I do any work for any clients, CHNGE, freelance, personal, whatever it is, like no matter what I'm doing, I always make sure I'm able to communicate what it is the person I'm working with is looking for. So if I'm doing a freelance project for a company, the first thing I asked after we, correspondence via email, text, whatever, we go over what it is my objectives are and what the deliverables are going to be. Because I don't want to start shooting something and have one intention for myself and completely ignore the intentions of the client. Because yes, in a sense, you know, as a photographer, you are the creative. Like what you want matters. As a photographer, what you want does truly matter, and everyone should know that. Like, people are hiring you for a reason, so they're gonna trust what it is within your ability to create. But add a little, a bit of a bonus to that is to ask the clients, hey, like, what do you need from me? Are there things that I might not be thinking about when I'm working with you that would be important for you as a client? Like close-ups of your product, macro shots, specific details that I might not be able to process or think about because it's my first time shooting this type of thing. You know, little things like that go a very long way. So deliverables are a very important piece to add to the puzzle when you are doing any kind of creative work for any client. And I think that as an experienced photographer, I've noticed that goes way farther than just being somebody who is, a creative. That adds so many layers to you as a person in general.
Yeah, even maybe asking for a shot list and then getting the client to write a shot list. It's all the essentials. Like anything that you really, really need, your necessities, give me that so I make sure that you guys are super happy with this. And then when they see extra stuff on top of okay, he listed out everything we needed or she listed out everything we needed, we have all those images, and then they gave us an extra 20 images of this crazy cool stuff that we could use for Instagram or whatever it is.
Sorry, there's mad mosquitoes by me. I'm not waving because I farted. I'm waving because there's just a shit ton of mosquitoes.
I can't see them, dude, so you're going to have to deal with it.
I just wanted to put that out there in case anyone thinks I'm fanning a fart. That's not what I'm doing.
Dude, no, I think that's huge. Over delivering, delivering the essentials, but then over delivering. So you need to know exactly what you're getting yourself into when you're gonna have a shoot. I think that's really, really, really good advice.
Exactly. And also, this is also to protect your ass as a photographer, as somebody who is doing creative work. You want to ensure that you're not being asked double the work you were initially signed up for. So, when you are asking for deliverables off rip, whenever the point it is that you as a creator decides to talk about, compensation, you know exactly what you have to give them and what you don't have to give them. So this kind of also holds you to like somewhat of a it's kind of like a, word of mouth contract, obviously, like most of the times. Maybe you do. I don't know. I don't work like that. Someone asks me for something. Okay, boom, I give it to them. And then the invoice is for exactly that. And most often I don't run into problems with that. I think majority of the time people are good people. They just want to get whatever it is that they asked for. So doing so just kind of holds you to this. You have a deadline. You have an objective. Complete that, and you're good to go.
Yeah, dude, because every single photographer that's ever done a paid job has dealt with a vague description of what you're going to be shooting, and then they see the images and they're like, oh, how about 50 more? And you're like, what the fuck? Or can you just send us all the raws? And it's like, no, like it's good to have that outline before you get yourself into some hot water or like a pile of shit.
Like you said, I think a shot list goes such a long way, a much longer way than most people can imagine. And sometimes, it's going to be you that needs to provide that shot list. A lot of times, clients you work with literally are going to just trust you with everything. So you got to be very dignified in how much you're willing to give too. So that's also just, it's something of a feeling. It's nothing concrete. I think it varies depending on who you're working for and who you are as a person.
What is it about photography that makes this medium important to you?
To me, what makes this medium important to me is the ability to meet new people and to kind of have a time to chat with somebody you might not otherwise be able to talk to. I think for me personally, that's been my biggest takeaway from taking pictures. Dude, I love taking photos for the sake of the art. Like, absolutely. I love everything about it. I love just like coming home after like cranking out a roll or a memory card or whatever it is and sitting there and just like geeking out what I got. That's an amazing feeling. Anybody that takes pictures can understand that. But beyond that, I think the people I've been able to meet, the connections I've been able to make, and the work I've been able to create comes in a lot higher of hierarchy of why I do photography.
I feel the exact same way. It's like you might geek out over an image, but there's nothing like the experiences a camera can bring you. And it's put me in so many places I never would have been to. I never would have seen. So many conversations with total strangers that I've gotten so deep and had such a deep but brief connection with that makes photography meaningful. And it's like the stories that you could tell through the camera. It's like, to me, it's a wrench. Like, I beat the shit out of my cameras, and I see some people and they're like, dude, your camera's beat to shit. And I'm like, dude, because I use it.
It's a tool, bro.
Because it's a wrench, it's a screwdriver, and it's more about that connection with whatever I'm shooting, whether it's like light or a person.
I think to put it into like perspective of somebody who hasn't picked up a camera before, for me, when I first picked up a camera, my mother had actually allowed me to borrow her camera when I first got into this, when I was like, I don't know, I was like 20 years old. Ma, what was that, 20 when I first picked up the camera? About 20 years old? Yeah, so my mom had this like really old, like a Sony A330, bro. Dude, this thing was ancient. It was like a 10 megapixel camera. But when I picked it up, dude, I was living in Queens. I just gotten down into the city. I was like, fourth of my way through college, whatever it was. And I was a pretty shy person, and my camera allowed me to finally learn to approach people and to be able to bring up discussions I otherwise would have been way too, hesitant to do. And, that really shaped me as a person now, as somebody who's 27 years old and does this professionally after like everything. So,
I think
there's so many different sides to this game, man. Like so many different sides.
It's fucking crazy, dude. It works that way for a lot of people with the camera. It's like a barrier between you and a stranger. And for
icebreaker.
For some, yeah, it's an insane icebreaker. Even for me, because it worked in the opposite way for me, where I was just like overtly extroverted. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody, but
that's definitely a fact.
Yeah, I'm like not afraid of rejection, but dude,
you shouldn't be, but
it would allow me even to become more of an extrovert, and because it is such an icebreaker. People really either respond really bad or really well to a camera.
Yeah, yep. It's definitely one of those things, man. It's two sides of the same coin. They're either like with it or just absolutely not, and you got to just swallow that and keep it moving.
What's your favorite project you've ever worked on?
There's a lot of stuff I've had a lot of fun and enjoyment working on. I think maybe the ballet campaign was one of my favorite projects to work on. I got a homie named Luke. Shout out Luke Impressive Luke. He's an amazing creative director, and he's gotten me a lot of freelance gigs that I otherwise might not have been able to negotiate for myself. But maybe, I don't know. But at the time, I haven't. And he's always just trusted in me so completely to do what my job is to do, and that's create images. And first time I think shooting for like a major brand, man, and he just brought me on to do an entire campaign and gave me full creative control. He provided me with like a mood, of course, but at the end of it, he was like, "Bro, listen, do what you do best and make us some cool shit." And I was like, "Bet, let's do that."
Yeah.
And I think going as far to creating the set, choosing the set, where I wanted to kind of like create all of this outside of this small warehouse that we had booked to do the video and the photo shoot for. I think that might have been like my favorite project, because at the time, even still, that was like I think my first gig where I had that much control. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't think I had that much free reign prior to that, or anybody really trusted me with something so important. Well, to me, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it probably wasn't that important given the things that are actually going on in this world. But to me, that was a major breakthrough, and I was like, damn, like I felt really good about it, and client felt good about it. It was a collaboration between Bally and Swizz Beatz. It was cool seeing my photos on Swizz Beatz's, Instagram and shit. And again, like that's not the end all be all for your work as a photographer, like Instagram and celebrity posting it. But it was a cool breakthrough. It was something that really just kind of gave me a little bit of a kick in the arse to, do more. And it was like, yo, listen, bro, like this is the beginning. It's something that you can throw on a resume, throw as some indication of that you've been responsible for something important. It was kind of one of those things. But I think for that sake, don't think I was the most proud of those photos. I don't think those are like my favorite photos I've ever taken, but it was my favorite project for the amount of responsibility I think I was given.
Yeah, and they're damn good photos, dude. I saw that campaign. I loved it. But
thank you. I appreciate that.
I know this is going to be a golden nugget for anybody that's looking to get more work. Myself and you, we both shoot more commercial stuff or lifestyle stuff, and we work with brands. You mentioned Luke, creative director. How did you go about meeting Luke? How do you go about meeting these people, say in New York City, that have tossed you work?
How did I? Dude, I just know a lot of really, like, this is something that I feel like a lot of people can say, but a lot of my friends are just really genuinely cool people. The type of people who look out for you very often, and I hope to think that I'm the same for a lot of others. But yeah, dude, it just going out in New York City, being open to meeting new people. Another cliche bit of advice, but it fucking works. making sure that you're doing everything in your power to keep who you are sacred and not like allow the environment to change you, but then just be like real with people and like, you know, meet people who you genuinely fuck with. Because if you try to like move yourself into a crowd that you don't fit into, dude, you're gonna feel so much stress and anxiety. And I know, like, listen, man, we've all been adolescents and have tried that. You know, you're in high school or junior high or whatever it is, and sometimes it sticks with people. You know, you gotta feel like you're in the cool space. It's like, nah, like, yo, if you vibe with a certain group of people, no matter like what their status is, that's gonna take you a lot further, and just like rock with them and then make cool stuff with them and just stay true to yourself, because without that you're gonna lose yourself and you're not gonna love what you do and you're not gonna be able to kind of create authentic stuff. It's gonna feel wrong. It's gonna feel like a fucking job, dude. Like a job you hate. Just be true to yourself, bro. Like that's the most cliche thing I could fucking ever say, but it's something that I've been able to take and actively utilize, and it's done wonders for me, man. Like I wouldn't know people like you without that advice. Like you are somebody who's true to yourself, and that shit goes a long way, bro.
Yeah, dude. Which brings me to another great point of how we met. And you're spitting great advice right now, where to summarize what you just said, be friends with people that you fuck with. And you're going to meet some people, and be open to making new friends. And you're going to meet some people that are doing exactly what you're doing, or they're going to be working in the same industry you're working it in, but they're going to be the person in the position to give you the job.
Not to say it's not an option to work with people that you don't fuck with, because that is also like something that is alienating for yourself. You want to ensure that, you know, maybe you don't agree with something that everybody says or does, but you know, it's a job and you're on set with this person. You've got to be mature and you've got to be able to kind of roll punches. That's another thing. Like, I'd be lying if I said that I loved every single job I've ever worked, and I don't think that you could say the same thing. Like, dude, there's nobody in the history of working for anybody has loved everything they've done. So being respectful is something. Being respectful and being kind to people that you have the biggest opposition towards is such a huge benefit, and that's going to throw you so much further than just being nice to your friends.
Yeah. So to kind of summarize what we were just talking about, I think it's safe to say you'll get a lot of work from the friends you meet in the city that you're in, if you're finding friends that are working within your genre or working in the creative space. But the clients that you're going to get from those friends are not always going to be the best clients. But like you said, you have to be respectful, and you have to be, in my opinion, humble, because I, for one, think I know best sometimes. And then I'm like, fuck, but that's not what they want. They might not know, or they might not want the most creative shot in the world. They want a fucking straight shot. So you have to be humble, swallow your fucking pride, and just take the shot that they want.
So yeah, I think that's another thing with working in the scene. It's not about knowing best or knowing worst. It's about knowing what is needed.
Yep.
It's not so much about that, you know, you're more technical, or I mean, in some cases, yeah, people want that. Not to say that it's not ever like requested, but I think it's more about being able to facilitate the needs of your client.
Huge.
And sometimes it requires you swallowing your pride a little bit about what it is you want to do for this campaign. You know, you might have some great ideas, and there's never anything wrong with having great ideas. But when it comes to like working for a brand, you gotta put yourself in their shoes a little bit.
It's what they want. It's just like if I went to go get a car and I want a Jeep, but the dealer comes out with a minivan and he's like, no, this minivan's way better, it's way more expensive, it's way nicer, but I'll give it to you for the same price. It's like, I don't really care what the fucking price is right now. I just want my Jeep, dude. I don't want the fucking minivan. So that's,
I think, a perfect analogy.
And if you walk away with the minivan, you're going to feel like a piece of shit. You're going to be like, that guy duped me.
There definitely exists a balance between the two when you are working in this space and also trying to make money. You know, obviously you get to a certain level of your career, you can do whatever the fuck you want. But for most of us, even where I'm at, you know, I'm in no position of like the higher level of the hierarchy, dude. I'm a wage slave like everybody else.
Yeah.
I chase a check and I make sure I can, you know, pay my rent and pay my bills. Like, dude, I'm not out here copping a Porsche and living in fucking, you know, Calabasas with my fucking 6 kids and 3.5 dogs, or whatever the fuck it is.
No, I get you. We're all
it's still a job, you know. It's nothing to like really cry home about. It's nothing to really brag about. It's still a job, and I think a lot of people do get a bit of an ego about themselves when they are doing creative work. And that was something that's a like really trying to call anybody out for feeling that way. Like, shit, bro, you have an ego about this thing, or like you feel some type of way about yourself that you were the best. Like, run with that. Fuck it, because that kind of confidence doesn't come often. But what I will say is that when you do become a little bit more self-aware in this like creative space, you learn to move a little bit differently, and I think that's where you move most comfortably. You know, not that doing things comfortable is the best for you, but
yeah, but you get a little bit more familiar with it, you know, and you kind of like find your stride. I have a buddy.
Yeah.
I have a buddy, Thomas Falcone, that is just like a great example of a really humble photographer. This kid, like, he kills it. He shoots with Big Sean. Like, he's flying in private jets.
Oh, yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Dude's flying in private jets like a few times a week or before the quarantine. When he's back in Brooklyn, it's just like, it's just Tom. Nicest, kindest, like, dude, celebrities know this kid, but he never has any sort of ego. He's just like, and I've watched him treat.
He does his job.
Yeah, but I've watched him treat my friends, who he has no idea who the fuck they are, like they're his best friend when he's first meeting them, and then he treats everyone that way. He's just...
Bro, that's good shit. That's being a good fucking human being, man. And, you know, that comes first. That comes first before anything, in my opinion. Like,
yeah.
I think the reason we get along best is because we both can kind of, like, acknowledge that. And... you know, we don't look at ourselves as some kind of like, you know, untouchable rock stars.
Yeah, which I find it funny if any photographer does. So.
And hey, man, you know, dude, even if any photographer does, kudos to them, bro. Like, I hope that you are doing the work that matches that. Like, I really do hope that if you find yourself to be some kind of rock star, you are living that life and you're just happy, because whatever you feel about yourself doesn't affect me.
Mm-hmm.
What affects me is how I feel about myself, and that is the most important thing that can ever happen, because you know,
that's it.
That's life.
Yeah,
that's life,
dude.
That's life.
I'm not gonna name any names.
Drinking my beer backwards.
You're good. I'm not gonna name any names. I assist quite a few photographers, but one of the photographers I assist, his work is very dated, but he believes he is a rock star. He really believes it, and it's worked to his advantage in so many ways, where he shoots the biggest celebrities on the planet, but at the same time, everyone on set that's on his crew does not respect him, and he has such a high turnover with assistants. I worked with probably 20 assistants in the time that I've worked with him, because he underpays. He doesn't talk to people. Like you said, I don't think there's necessarily like, I don't think it's the end of the world if you're an egomaniac. It could work in your advantage, but I guess it just comes down to knowing yourself. But I can tell you what, that is not me or you, man. That shit would not work for me.
But I think that kind of mentality is just such a like waste of fucking space, man. Like, it just serves nobody aside from yourself. And you know, I think I'm the type of person who does care about how others feel about my actions. Not so much like how others feel about what I think, but how your actions affect others. And when you're on set with somebody, you're commanding people in a way that just puts others down is not conducive to this industry.
No.
You know, like, that's just not...
No, not at all. We talk a lot about community as far as just, I mean, having a good life. And having a successful career, how important do you think community is in your career?
I think it's everything. I mean, you can't do much without a community, man. Like I think that goes back way to the old days. Old days. I'm talking about like the start of humanity. Really, realistically, we are social beings. So without any kind of level of uh, like lucrative community building, there's not much you're able to do. You only go so far as your network.
Yeah, I think it's helped push me. What role do you think the internet plays in community?
It makes it so much easier to be able to connect to people who have anything of a similar interest, right? So um, I think that's been such a basis of how I've gotten to where I am has been through the internet, and it's literally all about just being able to network, being able to understand what's going on in these communities, and applying it and applying yourself to that. Not saying that you have to conform exactly, but you know that's it's truly just human nature. Everyone wants to feel a part of something. So when you are a part of something, it helps to elevate whatever agenda you're trying to
To
advance.
push. So you're like you could essentially, I don't know, use a hashtag or something to find the exact type of people you're going after, or the exact group you want to be a part of. For me, it seems like you've had success on the internet, like especially with Instagram. Early on, I think you were probably one of the early users, right? Or like you got an Instagram pretty early.
I don't know if I would consider myself to be an early user. I was fairly early, but I don't have the craziest audience. I don't know if I'm the person to speak on that, but what I can say is though that the internet is an amazing place to build the community that you can surround yourself with and feel comfortable with. And I definitely did that through Instagram, 100%. I would not have a photography career without Instagram. I don't think that would have been possible because I wouldn't have had any other outlets to promote my work through. I mean, yeah, Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook were all options, but everyone knows damn well if you're a photographer, you're on Instagram, and
Yeah.
that is like the safe space for those kinds of creators. But with community building, I did use hashtags when I first started. I don't hashtag anything anymore.
Yeah.
Not to sound like that guy.
Me
Like,
neither.
I really hate to sound like that guy, but I don't really think it does much for me. But listen, more importantly, man, is the human interactions you have with people. Being able to go to places. I mean, it's coronavirus now, so it's kind of hard to uh, feature a young dad. With coronavirus, it's a lot harder to make these in-person connections and appearances at places. But I think realistically, going to the events, the galleries, the parties, make much more of a difference than just throwing a hashtag up on Instagram.
Yeah, no, and I think you had great success with Instagram early on in your career, but now your career is so much more of an in-person thing. And I think if you deleted Instagram today, it would not affect your career at all.
I'd like to hope so.
Yeah, I
I
don't
like to
think it
think
would.
so.
I think you've done a great job at actually making real connections and showing your work in real life through that.
Thank you.
I don't even have this one written down, but this is just another sick thing that I think is really beneficial to anybody in this space. But one thing you do at Change, maybe you've talked about to me with Change, is how Change uses Instagram as almost a platform for views. And it's not just like, oh, can we show the best work, but it's how can we get the most audience with this? And I know I'm kind of like vague around this, but for my example, me as a photographer, if I come out with social commentary, that gets a lot more interaction and engagement with people than just a photo of a foot in nice light. So it's like it makes sense. It makes total sense. But if I came out with a post of a picture of like a Donald Trump doll hanging from a rope or something, and I said like fuck Trump, well, I'd probably get 50 comments saying fuck Trump, and I'd probably get 50 comments saying fuck you, I love Trump. You pick
and ironically, all would do you a benefit. So
that's the point I'm trying to make here, is that if you're going to use Instagram for a tool in 2020, it's changed from what it used to be. And now it's like what you post has to say more about the person looking at it than it does about you and your work.
I don't think what you post has to say anything, but I do think that
if your goal is engagement,
anything with controversy is going to drive engagement, man. Like it could be anything. It could be between the engagement between like fucking, I don't know, certain fucking like obscure animals in the wild that you favor over others versus like politicians, because at the end of the day we're all just obscure animals in the wild.
Yeah, and neither,
you know what I'm saying?
Neither myself or you are using Instagram in that way.
I think the best way to address this would be that obviously anything that conspires controversy on any kind of social media platform is going to get the most attention, because in our just human nature, polarizing topics seem to excite us the most, right?
Yeah, and even in the media does that.
And now combine this with photography. Now, from the perspective of photographers, photography is an extremely accessible, it's an extremely accessible medium these days. Anyone can pick up a camera and take a picture. Shit, everyone's got an amazing camera on their phones nowadays. Yeah. So images are captured at a rate that never were before. So if you want something to be spoken about, it needs to really strike a thought in someone's head. Mm-hmm. And how do you strike the most thought in anybody's head? Controversy. It gets people to think. It could be the most like uplifting comment, or it can be the most negative comment. Either way, it's gonna make somebody think. And I personally believe that is the most efficient way to grab anybody's attention with any kind of medium. Is, this goes for paintings, this goes for photography, this goes for poetry, writing. They're all signs of the time. And you look back through history, anything that had kind of any indication of a signs of the time were something that were extremely controversial for that point in time. You're not going to remember the dude who was just neutral. Mm-hmm. You're going to remember the person who spoke up for something or somebody else. And I think that's very important.
Oh, dude, there's like a million things we could talk about on that.
Literally, you and I could go on for an entire night about this.
I think it's funny too, because I don't really incorporate social commentary into my work too much. But
I think you do.
Sometimes I will. Like occasionally I will. And
sure. I don't think I do. But I mean, I guess it's
for
everyone else to determine. We just take photos, bro.
You definitely do, because even like I see your work for change, and I always think to myself, dude, in 20 fucking years, people are gonna look back at this work and be like, holy shit, this kid got an entire subculture in New York City, and photograph them. And I think me and you might not look at it as documentary work right now, but it definitely is documentary work. It may be commercial and it may be for a brand, but I do think you guys work with very authentic people that are doing shit that's very important in our society, and they're pushing boundaries based on their morals. Bringing those people to light and actually, like you said, being at the forefront of what's socially acceptable right now with your photography is fucking huge.
Well, I very much appreciate that. I think you really got me thinking. You said this to me on multiple occasions, and I've very much digested your words and have thought about this in such a manner that's not just like, oh, I'm doing my job, but no, like I really do believe what you're saying is it's very true. It's very true. It's hard to kind of separate myself from my work. It's hard to separate myself from brand work sometimes, but in this case, I fully hold on to it, because I do believe in a lot of things that we do stand for. And, I'm not saying I'm just like a puppet for the company, but I do really hold on to the mentality for just being able to get people's messages out there as a creator, because that's kind of like what I set out to do in the first place, was to say something greater than, or to speak for people in a way that's greater than myself. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I love to make pretty images too, bro. I love to just do photos for my own pleasure. It's not all like you have to be one thing. You know, you can do a multitude of things within this single medium. Like,
Yeah.
you don't always need to be just fucking saying something. Like, you can just take a photo of something because it's pretty and has amazing composition and colors.
What I do see in your work is that your work doesn't really scream me. It's about the person that's in front of the camera, and it still has your voice attached to it. It still has your style attached to it. So it has Nick in it, but it's about the subject, and it's about their story.
I appreciate that, and I really appreciate that. But how so? What do you mean by that, dude? I don't mean to shoot a question back at you, but
No. I mean, like,
I'm just curious. Like, I'm
and
crowdsourcing for this.
I could be I could be attaching more meaning to it, but the amount of times that you'd come home with pictures of someone that you shot for Change, and you had a whole story about this person, how they were like are LGBTQ, or they're trans. They're also dealing with like medical problems, and you're photographing this girl in her wheelchair in her living room, or whatever it is. Dude, I think that's totally telling the story of the person.
For sure. I think working with Change has really opened my eyes to exactly that. You know, that being able to kind of like work with these people who have such varying understandings of what beauty is has opened my own eyes to all that. And, you know, I've always been very, very, I like to think I've always been very cognizant of what beauty means, as the sense of like, you know, it is to the eye of the beholder, you know, like not everyone's standard of beauty is like anywhere the same as the next guy or the person before them or what have you. But it's I think it's more about showing a story, telling a story that hasn't been told, and showing that this is all normal. Like, all of our experiences as human beings are normal. And there's nothing wrong with being a normal person.
Nick, that's it. Not to cut you off, but that's it. What I was trying to say about your images, it's telling a story that hasn't been told, or maybe it has, but we don't see it every day. And I feel like what you're doing is you're telling a story of real people, and some of the most beautiful people I've met are on a Change shoot. There was a person that we shot with that was the fucking coolest fucking person, and the person's energy was just glowing. And I couldn't stop shooting with them because I felt so connected to that person, and I feel like I got the most interesting pictures of that person because of their energy. And I think that there's way more to be said about shooting an untold story than there is doing the same shit that everybody else is doing. So if you're trying to start shooting photography and trying to and you're like, I don't have models in my town. Well, dude, you have fucking friends. You have family. You have your grandma. Some of the best pictures I've ever seen are people like Ryan Fluger, who shot photos of his like estranged alcoholic dad. The unicorn.
Dude, I think that's exactly it. You know, you learn to find the beauty in the things that are not so generalized as such. And as a photographer, especially somebody like you, Marty, bro, you can find the beauty in the corner of some concrete on an obscure street that no one's been to, and it's got like a trickle of piss on it, and you're like, yo, this is the most amazing thing ever.
The piss, man. The piss and the light. The piss and the light.
You're able to convey that story of what you see through your eyes to the public, man. And you know, I think that is the pinnacle of what it is to be a photographer. I think that is at its highest form what it is to be a photographer. Being able to convey your story through your own eyes, what you see somebody else. It's not about beauty. It's not about composition. It's not about how amazing your colors are. It's not about how amazing, like, you know, you've framed the image. It's literally all about what you see. And you can't get that you can't get that twisted, because then you'll simply lose yourself in the whole
you'll lose yourself in the technicality of things. You'll lose yourself in the rules, and it's like there's no fucking rules. It's like, tell me what you're trying to tell me, and it comes back to storytelling. I think that's something you remind me of fairly often, is that stop over fucking thinking it. It doesn't need to be the best image in the goddamn world. You need to tell me what I'm looking at through the image.
Hey, we were talking the other night. I saw you the other night, and you were saying, hey man, I want to ask you about this kind of color grading or what have you. And not to call you up, but my first thought was like, yo, what does it matter? Like,
yeah,
yes, it matters, but I think the fact that your photos just speak in general of like the subject, like the things you take, are already so just next level to me, that me as a photographer looking at your work would never consider like the tone of your yellows, bro.
Yeah.
Because I'm always just so infatuated by the things you shoot. So I'm not looking at the tones of your work in the same way that you might be. And just advice to photographers, I think that's something to remember. When you are working on something, man, like, obviously you're going to see all of the imperfections along the way, but the majority of people are not going to be able to recognize that. And
so focus on the story. Focus on the fucking story.
Focus on the story, yeah. But just beyond that, like, don't be so nitpicky about your work, because at the end of the day, it's very unfortunate, but also just like the actual reality. Majority of people, and I'm not saying to make your work for the majority of people, but majority of people are not going to look at your work for more than fucking 10 seconds, bro.
Yeah. No, they don't. Or even 1 second.
I mean, even off of Instagram, like, bro, I've been to a museum. You've been to a museum.
Yeah.
Almost anybody watching this has been to a museum. How long do you really look at a painting, bro?
What's a dream photo gig for you?
A dream photo gig for me? I think my dream photo gig is something I won't ever be able to predict. You know, it's like one of those bits of history that you just kind of capture because you were in the right place at the right moment. The first thought I had in my head, Time magazine cover of the Baltimore riots, was it? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The one with the kid running down the street. Bro, something like that would be my most ideal gig.
Maybe like capture a piece of history.
Just being able to rest my head on the thought that like this image will outlast me, because I love fashion photography, I love portraiture, but how much of that really says something? And I think this goes along with the whole notion of our entire conversation we've had, is that you know, we aim to create things that are gonna outlast us. And I think as an artist, that's just like a general thought. Like, I don't think there's anything selfish about that. Like, yo, if I'm gonna make some shit, I want it to fucking outlive me. I want it to be something that will speak for me years beyond my death, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I've ever created anything like that, but I would love to think of my work in that sense.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
I don't know if I have an exact moment in which I've received the best advice, but I can recall the first time I've received any critique, and I was very upset at first, but it drove me to be better. So I guess that in turn was the best advice. So I'm not gonna name any names, but I had this lady who was a photographer for a major company. I requested her feedback on some of my photos, and she just ripped me apart. And I was just like, at first, pretty salty, like, wow. I mean, this was like when I was first starting, so it was silly of me to even have a big head. But I'm happy she just like smushed that like on the rip.
Dude, good for her, because I can't even give, if somebody asked me for a critique and I don't know them, I'd be so nice. I'd just be like, well, maybe you could do this a little better. But like, I would feel, it does nobody a service if you fucking blow someone up and lie.
Yo, homies, don't be a fucking yes man. If you have a friend who makes anything and they are just absolutely devoted to their craft, the worst thing you can do is to just gas them up, because they're never going to grow. So that's my 2 cents. Be real with your friends. If you don't like something that they do, discuss it with them in a constructive manner. I'm not saying go and be like, yo, you fucking suck. I mean, like, yo, give some honest, constructive feedback, because that's the only way anybody will grow. And listen, you're only as strong as the weakest link in your circle. And that's the truth of it. Like, if you have people surrounding you that absolutely just tell you that your work is fire, 99% of the time, you might not go too far.
And that's something I don't think about often, is that you're the weakest, or like you're only strong as the weakest link in your circle. Because I guess I'm so open with my work and my process, it benefits you to make your friends fucking better or to help them get better. And if someone helps you get better, like, you can help them get better. There's shit that, like, you're say you guys play soccer or something, I don't know, say whatever you do. Your best soccer player friend, there's something that you know that he doesn't know. There always is going to be something. You're going to do something slightly different or be slightly better at something that he is not good at.
Dude, you played football. You played sports all throughout your life, right?
Yeah.
So in you understand this. So in my experience, I think wrestling would have been the pinnacle of my athletic career. I was pretty good in high school, and I got to college, and I thought it was a shit. Dude, I only wrestled in D3. I was no professional. But, like, once you get your head slammed into the mat enough as a freshman, you learn, hey, I was not the best. What can I do to be better?
Yeah.
What can I do to improve my performance, right? I think that's the mental equivalent of your homies telling you what your work is really worth. And if you ain't got the homies that are going to slam your face into the mat, then those ain't your homies, bro. Because Marty,
True.
I know damn well I've said some shit to you, and you've told me off rip, like, yo, man, I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. This ain't your best work. That is the shit I appreciate more than somebody just telling me, fucking throwing 3 fire emojis underneath my photo. I don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah, that does nothing for you.
That's exactly. It doesn't do anything for me. Listen, being a nice guy is not a bad thing, but
constructive criticism is, I would say, the most important thing to help you grow within just getting better at taking pictures. And not necessarily getting more work, whatever, but if you actually just want to grow in your process, in your storytelling, in your photography. I have a friend.
And outside of that, the other side of that is being able to not get upset when people disagree with what you do.
Oh, of course, dude.
That's the other side of the coin you need to be like familiar with.
It stings at first, dude, but when you realize how much somebody loves you when they're willing to critique your work, you like literally have to put yourself out there to critique someone's work. You're like, they might get really fucking pissed at me, but I care enough about them and their work to shoot them my honest opinion. You
know what I think I just realized, bro? I think when you just said that, sorry to cut you off, but
no, you're good.
I really do feel I've realized who loves me the most by those constructive comments. Like, these are the people that truly give a damn about you, and that's that, man. Like,
yeah, that's the fucking truth. My buddy in Poland, that's the other thing I was gonna say.
Was that Maciek?
Yeah, Maciek. He's like the first person that's ever really critiqued my work with absolutely an unbiased opinion.
I think
it helped so much.
Telling me about him has really opened my eyes to that. I was like, oh shit, like, yo, you're right. Like, that's what a friend should be like. Someone who's gonna really give it to you raw.
Dude, the last thing I was gonna ask you was just like if you had any advice for someone trying to get into photography, and I think that whole section we just talked about was like a wicked big chunk of advice is don't be afraid to let your work be critiqued, and don't be afraid to give an honest critique back to people. Don't go throwing stones, but
yeah, no, I mean, obviously, like you just said, don't go throwing stones. But I think, yeah, dude, I think my biggest advice is to straight up, like, don't shit where you eat.
What do you mean by that?
Don't shit where you eat, bro. Like, if you're trying to build a career or any kind of understanding of who you are, make sure that you're just, like, a good person, bro. Like, be a good person first. There doesn't need to be any instances of you being wrapped up in ego. You know, avoid that. Avoid people who are going to take advantage of you in a way that you feel uncomfortable with. Like, be okay with saying no to things. I think that's a very important one, is being able to say no. That still has taken me a while to kind of come to even, internalize myself. Surrounding yourself with people who are going to give you, like, critical advice. People who are going to really, like, want to give you their honest answers. Not the shit that you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, I guess I would say is don't worry too much on, a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this shit, but I don't think you need to focus on technique as much as you need to focus on network, because no offense to anybody I know, but there's a heavy amount of people who just know how to network and get themselves in the right positions. So if I'm going to be honest with you, man, it's just like, make sure you are networking and you're continuing to build your brand, because if you're not out there doing it, somebody else is, and they're going to get ahead of you, and you're going to get shoved into the pit of no one knows who the fuck you are. Be good, create good stuff, but also be able to talk yourself up and be confident in what you make, because without that, you're never gonna get off the ground.
Yeah.
In my opinion, who am I? I don't know anything.
No,
I'm a fucking.
I've seen
I take
that.
pictures, bro.
What can we expect to see from Nick Wilkie in the next year?
In the next year, I'd like to see more of myself doing things that are for myself. And that's that. Building my own brand and ensuring that I'm not being overshadowed by anything I've ever worked for outside of myself. Because you got one life to live, baby. You might as well.
You
do
deserve
what
it,
you
man.
do.
You deserve it.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. And I think anybody who does anything can agree with that.
You're the boy, dude. Thanks for coming on this. And one other note.
Yo.
Nick called me Marty the whole damn time. But everyone on here knows me as Atticus. It's a nickname. The story's too long to explain. Maybe we'll explain it on the next episode. Nick, you're my absolute fucking brother. I love you, dude.
Yo, thank you so much for having me on, Marty. I hope I didn't make your ears bleed at all. And love you, bro.
Love you too, bro. You're my boy, and enjoy that fire with the family.